Well, I want to talk more about like how we came up with the name, Hello Player One. Like, what was the
Yep.
you led that? So what was your reasoning for that?
Yeah. So when we first talked about doing the podcast, right, we really wanted to talk about what we thought was coming up, right? What's next in, NFT development, metaverse, gaming, digital fashion. And I was trying to find a name that was relevant to metaverse, but not using the name metaverse or meta. Because one, there was just so many podcasts out there that were using these names. There was the obvious choice for us would have been Metaverse Podcast. Sure, that's like long taken. There's Metaverse Hour, right? Hello Metaverse. Like these are cool names, but they're taken. And so had we chose anything with the word metaverse in the podcast title, we would have gotten lost in the shuffle, especially since we're starting out. So I didn't want anything to do with metaverse or meta because meta is sort of tricky because the word is trademarked, right? Used to be Facebook. So, I don't think they'll come after you, but it's just confusing. And they could, depending on how you use it. So I didn't want anything to do with metaverse. I also didn't want a podcast named the Tentango Podcast because that would have been confusing for what Tentango does, right? Tentango, we build stuff in the metaverse. The podcast is more about education in what's coming up in the metaverse, and I didn't want those to be confused. And so those were the two big things. Let's see what else. So I actually spent a long time brainstorming the names, and I think I had over like 100 names. And our first choice would have been What's Next, because it just sounds cool. Like, hey, what's next in the metaverse? What's next in NFT development? It made a lot of sense. But when I did a search on Google to see like if there was a podcast named What's Next, there wasn't, but there was a podcast named What Next. And it was a very popular podcast with, I think, over 1 million subscribers on YouTube. So again, it would have been confusing if someone searched for What's Next. There's also the apostrophe S, and that's not something people normally type in. Again, it would have been confusing. It would have been nice had we had that because it would have broad enough where we can talk about everything around metaverse, gaming, marketing, but not so niche. So after that, brainstormed some more, and we came up with a short list that I showed you. And one of the ones we both liked was Hello Player One. It was cool because it was somewhat gaming related, and we believe gaming is going to eat into every single industry out there, right? Digital fashion. It's also metaverse related because it's a spoof on Ready Player One. And I think when people see it, they recognize that it's going to be about the metaverse. So yeah, that's I think how we came up with it. What were your thoughts?
I remember we came up with a few other ones like was it Ready Player Click was one.
Ready Player Click, yes.
Yeah. I was getting very very picky on like why I didn't like that one. I just don't like the word click, which is very very pointed to why I don't like it. But it was a good option. And then one of the one we had, I selected
GameFi.
GameFi was one. One of the reasons why we didn't go with GameFi is because of how a lot of these words are very trendy. And in crypto, like play to earn was the big buzzword last year. Now it's turned to play and earn. So
right.
We're more concerned with GameFi being like the current buzzword. And then 5 years from now, if we're still doing this, we've got this old term that no one even really understands fully. It's just totally dated or it's very cliche. So yeah, that was the main thing why I didn't like the GameFi thing. And Hello Player One, I'm a fan of the book. So it just kind of rolls off the tongue too. It's not like the click word. It's just like kind of a harsh word. And I like Hello Player One as more of a smooth phrase. So that was really my reasoning.
Yeah, I think I forgot to mention that, I did a search on Hello Player One podcast, There's nothing out there. Right? There's other podcasts using other variations of the word Radio Player One, but there's nothing out there for Hello Player One. And so I knew that we could, one, brand it very easily, and two, we would be up in the search rankings very easily for people that search Hello Player One, right? They would search for our podcast name. That's something that's not, thought about often. So, for example, our name Tentango, I actually see people search for that name. They search that word in Google, right? They've heard of it somewhere and they search for it. It would have been a lot harder if, let's say, our studio was called Metaverse Creative Studio, right? Like they would search for that, they would get a bunch of other people's names because it's so generic. So that's the nice thing about being able to brand it. Of course, in the beginning, you don't get the search traffic, but that's fine because you can brand it and it grows over time. Hey everyone, this is Jack, and thanks for watching this clip from Hello Player One. If you enjoyed it, you can click here to watch another one, or if you want to watch the entire podcast, click here. See you later.